Paul McGrath, what do you talk about Paul? His great problem was alcohol. He had a real big problem with this. Paul, when he left Man United, went to Birmingham, and he lived in Birmingham. Well, he played for Villa, of course, but he lived in Birmingham. So he used to fly into Dublin, and we would go across and pick him up, take him, put him in his room, ask him what he wanted to eat, and then somebody would sleep across the front door of his bedroom so that he couldn't get out. Paul was one of those lads. He didn't turn up one day, and I asked who had been to meet the planes coming in, and nobody knew. And then later that night, I got a phone call, and it was Paul, and he had phoned me, and I said, "Well, where are you?" He said, "I'm in Israel." I said, "You're where?" He said, "I'm in Israel." I said, "What are you doing there?" He says, "Well, I was with a friend, and we went down to Cork, and we got on the first plane we could get onto when it went to Israel." He said, "Can I come back?" I said, "Of course you can come back, but you're not going to play." And he turned up for the game. I mean, it was typical Paul. We would now let him go out with the players until one day Andy Townsend came to see me, and Andy said, "Can we take Paul with us?" He says, "I'll make sure, I'll stand next to him, he won't have a drink." But Paul gets sick of sitting around his bedroom and sick of sitting around the hotel. He says, and that upsets him a little bit. He said, "Why can't he come out with us? We'll look after him." He said, because Paul McGrath, the sober Paul McGrath, is a great, great player, and we will look after him because we like to play with great, great players. And I said, "Andy, take him out with you." And he did. Unfortunately, he brought him back stone cold sober, so Paul was allowed to go out on the odd occasion again. But Paul was an exceptional player. I mean, you could play him anywhere on the field and he would do a job for you. You play him up front, you could play him in midfield, you could play him at the back. He had this sort of a turn of speed. Like if you had a run towards the ball and he could go at three-quarter pace, you would think he was running quite quick. And then somebody would start chasing towards the same ball, and then Paul would just up his acceleration by about 5 miles an hour, and he would just run away from him and get to the ball with plenty of time and will. Great striker of the ball, good finisher. I mean, Paul was one of those players that any manager in the world would have had in the team. Paul had a knee problem. It wasn't a particularly bad one, but it was one that you couldn't train and let him change directions and put tackles in. You couldn't do that with Paul. So he used to go for a jog around the field while we were doing the other work we used to do. Paul would train round the park with Mick Byrne. I can see him running round and round the park with Mick Byrne, and then he would sit down, he would do some exercises, and Mick would put him through the work. But he was always under supervision whenever he trained, because we had to. He was such a good player, we needed him. And I do worry about Paul. Because like I've said to him many times, people in football will look after you. But the moment you finish playing football, they won't look after you anymore. It's in their interest to look after you. When it's not in their interest, they won't.